Alcaraz and Juan Carlos Ferrero split up, and
we got two major splits within the sport. Tennis, man. There's no other sport like it.
Yeah. Alcaraz is the man to make history here, to do all four major trophies at age 22.
It's the youngest career Grand Slam winner of all time.
88 years. That's how long Don Budge's record stood. Youngest man to complete tennis's career Grand Slam. Through the amateur era, the Open era, through Laver's dominance, Borg's brilliance, Sampras and Agassi's rivalry, and the entire 20-year stretch where Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic rewrote every record in sight. None of them touched Budge's benchmark. Carlos Alcaraz did. On February 1st, 2026, at 22 years and 272 days old, he beat Djokovic in the Australian Open final 2-6, 6-2, 6-3, 7-5, and became the youngest career Grand Slam champion in recorded tennis history.
Street down under as the youngest career Grand Slam winner.
Federer needed until 27, Nadal until 24, specifically the 2010 US Open. Djokovic also crossed the line at 29. The gap between them and Alcaraz isn't just generational, it's structural. And he did it in just 20 Grand Slam appearances with a 7-1 finals record, something Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic genuinely never dared to attempt this young.
Would you rather play Alcaraz than Sinner? He would take Alcaraz all day long.
He wants to hit, take your best punch, know he can handle it. He just rips your heart out. It's like he wants to beat your mom too, right?
Alcaraz, I've played Novak here, I know how hard he is to beat, and for Alcaraz to do it, was a teenager still at the time, to do it.
It's been working great, there's no doubt about that, but you know who has a problem with it? The guy who served that it looks like, Novak.
Yeah, I hear that. I have the contract over there, but I haven't seen him yet, so...
Or perhaps simply couldn't. If this framing of tennis history is new to you, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from. Let's break down exactly why 22 changes everything about how we discuss the GOAT conversation. Let's start with the number that matters most. 22 years and 272 days. That's how old Carlos Alcaraz was when he lifted the Norman Brooks Challenge Cup on February 1st, 2026. Not just his first Australian Open trophy, the fourth different major title of his career, the career Grand Slam, done before most top players have even figured out how to consistently win one. To understand the scale of what this means, you need to look at where Federer was at the same age. By the time Federer was 22, he had won Wimbledon in 2003 and the Australian Open in 2004. 2 slams. Impressive, yes. But his career slam completion didn't come until 6 years later at the 2009 French Open, when he was 27 years and 303 days old. That's nearly 5 full years older than Alcaraz is right now. 5 years of additional development, additional experience, additional physical wear, and the career slam still took until his late 20s.
Can anyone beat Carlos?
Alcaraz just too good.
Maybe even catch Djokovic.
I think Carlos wins this match to be the youngest to have ever won all 4 slams.
Carlos, he's so good.
Alcaraz is a joke right now.
Nadal's timeline is more impressive by comparison, but still nowhere close. He secured the career slam at the 2010 US Open, aged 24 years and 102 days. By the time Nadal completed that collection, Alcaraz was 7 years old. Djokovic completed the career slam at 29 years and 15 days at the 2016 Roland Garros final, the one major that had eluded him his entire career, older than Nadal, and a full 2 years older than Alcaraz is today. Here's what makes this genuinely uncomfortable for any analyst trying to protect the existing GOAT hierarchy. None of the big 3 dared to run this fast. And the word dared is doing a lot of work there because it wasn't really a choice. Federer physically couldn't build his clay game fast enough. Nadal's body, despite its extraordinary dominance on clay, took longer to translate consistently across grass and hard courts at major winning level. Djokovic, for all his mental fortitude, was operating in a generation where Federer and Nadal themselves were blocking the path to every title. Alcaraz didn't have that problem. He had Jannik Sinner, and he still got here first. The 2026 Australian Open wasn't just a tournament win for Alcaraz, it was a stress test. And he passed every stage of it in ways that told you a great deal about where his ceiling might sit. He reached the semi-final without dropping a single set. Then came Alexander Zverev. Over 5 hours and 27 minutes, the longest Australian Open semi-final in the tournament's entire history, Alcaraz won the first 2 sets, got hit by severe cramps, dropped the third and fourth in tie-breaks, and still found a way to win the 5th. That's not a performance of someone riding momentum. That's a performance of someone who refuses to be defined by physical circumstances in the middle of a match.
I won here too.
He's learned from Djokovic, he's learned from Nadal. You want to be the best, you have to beat the best.
Yes, I do have more doubts that I can win slams, particularly against these 2 guys. But at the same time, I know that while I'm still active and when I enter on the court, I don't care who is across the net.
Then he faced Djokovic in the final, a man who had never lost an Australian Open final in his career. 10 finals, 10 wins, the most dominant record at a single major any player has ever built. Djokovic won the first set 6-2 in just 33 minutes, hitting the ball cleanly, reading Alcaraz's serve, and looking every bit the player who has owned Melbourne Park more than any venue he's ever competed on. Alcaraz then won 3 consecutive sets, 6-2, 6-3, 7-5. He didn't lose his composure after the first set. He adjusted tactically, broke Djokovic's serve with purpose, and closed the match when the 38-year-old pushed a forehand long in the 12th game of the 4th set. 3 hours and 2 minutes total. Clinical when it mattered most. This was Alcaraz's 5th Australian Open appearance. His previous best result at Melbourne Park was a quarter-final. Both in 2024 and 2025, losing to Zverev in 2024 and Djokovic in 2025. That context matters. Completing the career slam at a tournament where he had repeatedly hit a ceiling is far harder than doing it somewhere comfortable. Federer completed his at Roland Garros, a surface where Nadal had tormented him for years.
Contract, maybe some other stuff.
Maybe Carlos's dad and Juan Carlos had a different vision. Some people think maybe they couldn't get a contract together.
This shifts everything for Carlos.
A lot of players trying to catch me up. They study my game, they study how I play, trying to beat me, trying to challenge me.
Djokovic completed his at Roland Garros, the one major that took him until age 29 to finally win. Both faced personal demons at their finishing line. Alcaraz walked into Melbourne with the same weight of history and left carrying the trophy. There's a particular argument that surfaces, no pun intended, whenever analysts discuss GOAT credentials, and it centers on adaptability. The career Grand Slam is the sport's most direct test of surface versatility, because winning all 4 requires winning on clay, grass, and 2 different speeds of hard court, under completely different conditions, crowd dynamics, and tactical demands. Federer was the grass and hard court master whose clay game took nearly a decade to reach major winning level. He won Roland Garros once, in 2009, when Nadal wasn't in the final. That's not a criticism of Federer's clay ability, it's simply an acknowledgement that cracking Roland Garros in Nadal's prime era required an almost impossible alignment of circumstances. Nadal's inverse difficulty was Wimbledon. He won it twice, 2008 and 2010, showing genuine grass court capability, but sustaining major winning consistency on a surface that rewarded flat ball striking and big serving never became his natural territory the way clay did. Djokovic perhaps came closest to true 4-surface dominance, but his own career slam required navigating around both Federer and Nadal at their respective peaks for years before he could complete the set. Alcaraz's path was different in structure. He won the US Open in 2022, his first Grand Slam title, becoming the youngest US Open men's champion since Pete Sampras in 1990, at 19 years and 4 months old. He won Wimbledon in 2023 and defended it in 2024, defeating Djokovic in both finals. He won Roland Garros in 2024, becoming the youngest man in history to win Grand Slam titles. On 3 different surfaces, he then won the US Open again in 2025 and defended Roland Garros in 2025, before finally completing the set at Melbourne in 2026,
I don't want this to be the end for his career. I want him to keep going and see if he can maybe even catch Djokovic. He's got a long way to go to do that, obviously, with 24. But the one thing with Alcaraz that's so amazing to me is he wins the big moments in every match that he plays. He wins the 5-setter.
You go from coaching to literally there's no settlement, there's nothing, you're done. That's how it goes in tennis. And maybe in this situation, it wasn't entirely Carlos's doing.
4 different majors, 4 different surfaces across 3 calendar years. No player in the Open era has assembled a career Grand Slam in a shorter time window. That's not a matter of opinion, it's straightforwardly what the record shows. Something that didn't get enough coverage in the immediate aftermath of the Australian Open was the coaching situation surrounding Alcaraz's 2026 campaign. In December 2025, he parted ways with Juan Carlos Ferrero, the man who had coached him for 7 years from the age of 15 through every single one of his previous 6 Grand Slam titles. That's not a routine mid-season adjustment, that's a fundamental disruption to the most important professional relationship of his career. The 2026 Australian Open was Alcaraz's first Grand Slam without Ferrero in his corner. He won it without, dropping a set until the semi-final. He then survived the longest semi-final in Melbourne's history. He then beat the greatest Melbourne champion the sport has ever produced, on that champion's own court, in his own final. Most elite players require a genuine adjustment period after a major coaching split, weeks or months of recalibration before rediscovering their competitive level. Alcaraz bypassed that process entirely in terms of results. Whether that demonstrates exceptional independence as a player or whether his game is now mature enough to sustain itself through transition is a legitimate debate. Either answer reflects well on where he's arrived. After the Australian Open, he withdrew from Rotterdam citing tiredness, entirely understandable after a 5-hour, 27-minute semi-final, then went to the Qatar Open, reached the final, and won it. He defeated Arthur Fils in 50 minutes, the fastest completed match of his career. 2 titles in the first 5 weeks of the season, starting a new coaching era. The title of this piece uses specific language, something Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic never dared.
I think he's playing like Federer.
It's the biggest victory of his career for sure.
No, I'm hungry.
If player and coach aren't getting along, that's what happens.
It's always make you up your risk profile. At 38 years old, are the options more narrow in a match for Novak? Absolutely. In order to win one of these matches against the Sinners and the Alcaraz, you need to win the clutch points more often.
That framing deserves to be defended as fact rather than left as rhetoric. The Big Three collectively won 66 Grand Slam titles. They restructured men's tennis for 2 decades. Their rivalry produced the highest sustained level the men's game has seen. Nobody is arguing that Alcaraz has surpassed them in legacy terms. He's 22. That conversation requires a decade more of evidence. What the data fully supports is this. The trajectory Alcaraz is currently on was never attempted at this age by any of the 3 players who defined modern tennis.
You have to thank Novak because he's pushing the ceiling higher and higher and putting the bar up higher and higher. At 38, I mean, Carlos Alcaraz is such an unbelievable athlete that I would assume that he could be playing for at least another 15 years. And if he is, he'll be at the top because he's so talented. His knowledge of the game and the knowledge of tactics already at his age.
The career slam at 22, 7 titles before his 23rd birthday, a 7-1 finals record, the youngest man in Open-era history to reach all 4 major finals, the youngest man in Open-era history to win 7 Grand Slams. The Big Three didn't dare run this fast, not because they lacked the talent or the will, but because the circumstances, the opponents blocking their paths, and the career development curves of their respective eras simply didn't allow it. Alcaraz operates in a different moment. His generation's equivalent of the Big Three is himself and Sinner. And at 22, having already done what none of those 3 legends dared attempt this young, he's ahead. That's not narrative, that's just the record. This is where the story sits in March 2026, a few weeks removed from a result that genuinely shifted the long-term conversation about where men's tennis is headed. Roland Garros comes next. Alcaraz is the 2-time defending champion on that court. That alone makes the 2026 clay season one of the most compelling storylines the sport has had in years. If you want to be here for every major analysis, every record broken, every moment where the narrative shifts, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. This is a space built for fans who actually want to understand what they're watching, not just see the headlines. Every video earns your time or it doesn't go up. The clay season starts soon, don't miss it.